We almost missed how quiet it sounded at first. Not silence, just the absence of urgency. The kind that usually means nothing is about to happen. Right before it does. Hannah Brooks works in product research. She's a single mother. What matters isn't the title or the borough. It's how quickly a calm moment can turn into a test of who gets access to your life. This is how she remembers it. I was standing in the grocery store aisle, staring at a shelf of pasta I didn't need, enjoying the rare luxury of choosing dinner based on what I wanted. Ethan was with his dad that weekend. No backpack by the door, no bedtime clock to race. Just me, a list that said milk and then trailed off. My phone buzzed. Jason, we need your place this weekend. I read it once. Then again. Another message came in before I could type anything. Jason Melissa's parents are in town. Hotels are crazy. You can crash somewhere else. I felt that familiar tightening in my chest, the one that shows up when someone skips the asking part. I typed, I'm not home. The dots appeared immediately. Jason perfect. Mom still has the key. I stared at the screen. The word perfect sat there like a decision I hadn't agreed to. I pushed the cart forward, then stopped. My hand was shaking, just a little. I could hear my own voice in my head, the one that usually smooths things over. Not this time. We noticed the pause then, the way she didn't reply right away. The way the moment stretched. I opened my phone again and said out loud to no one, No. If this story feels familiar, stay with it. She didn't know yet how far they were already willing to go. I didn't answer right away. I pushed the cart forward, then pulled it back, like the floor might have changed while I wasn't looking. My phone buzzed again. Jason, they're already packing. I leaned the cart against the freezer case and opened my notes app. Not because I planned to send anything, because my brain needed somewhere to put the panic. Okay, count it out. Jason and Melissa. That's 2. Melissa's parents, who don't like sleeping on couches. 4, her sister and her boyfriend. 6, 3 kids who never sit still. 9. And then the friend from out of town Jason always adds like an afterthought. 11. I stared at the list. 2 on the sofa. 3 air mattresses in the living room if you move the coffee table. Someone in my bed, 'cause it's the only real mattress. 2 in the den, which is supposed to be Ethan's room. 1 bathroom, 1 shower. Everyone's shoes by the door, everyone's noise, everyone's opinions. My phone lit up again. Melissa, we'll make it work. Make it work. That phrase always lands like a chore I didn't agree to. I typed. Erased. Typed again. Nothing stuck. Another message slid in. Jason, it's just a couple nights. Don't turn this into a thing. I closed my eyes and breathed through my nose. The freezer hummed behind me. Someone's cart rattled past. In my head, I saw Ethan's backpack on the floor of the den, his Lego city half built, the way he checks rooms before he relaxes, like he's counting exits. I locked my phone and slipped it into my pocket. My hands were cold now. We could feel the shift there. Not anger yet, something firmer. I rolled the cart toward the checkout, already knowing I wasn't going straight home. I didn't go home. I parked on a side street 3 blocks away and opened the camera app. My thumb was steady. My breath was not. The hallway appeared on my screen beige carpet, the scuff by my door, and the cold reality of what was coming. The motion alert chimed. Jason came into view first, his stride radiating the unearned confidence of a man who owned the world. Melissa followed, juggling a tote and a paper bag, leading a trail of luggage and tired relatives. Jason reached into his pocket and pulled out the old silver key. He stopped. He didn't even try to insert it. He couldn't. Where the familiar scratched metal lock used to be, there was now a sleek, black glass slab, a keyless touchscreen deadbolt I'd installed the week before. The physical keyway was gone, replaced by a reinforced, pick-resistant shield. He poked at the glass, confused. Then he jammed the silver key against the screen, scraping the surface. Metal hissed against glass. Nothing caught. The lock stayed dark, an impenetrable digital wall. Did she change the whole unit? Melissa leaned in, her voice sharp. Jason hammered his fist against the door, leaning his shoulder into it as if physical mass could override 256-bit encryption. This is ridiculous. She's locked us out of our own backup plan. On my screen, the deadbolt stayed still. A soft blue light pulsed once, a silent, access denied. Authorization was the only currency that worked here now, and Jason was bankrupt. My phone buzzed. Jason opened the door. Now, I didn't reply. I watched the child behind him sit on a suitcase, looking up with tired eyes. The hallway was full of noise, but inside my apartment, it was quiet. The lock didn't flinch. Neither did I. The camera view jumped, then steadied. I watched the elevator doors slide open as Marco, the weekend doorman, stepped into frame. His expression was a mix of professional alarm and confusion. Usually, no one bypassed the lobby without a buzz-in, but Jason was a master of the authorized bluff. "Sir, I told you at the desk," Marco said, his voice echoing in the narrow hall. "I need a verbal confirmation from Ms. Brooks before I can release the floor lock for a party this size." Jason didn't flinch. He used his sales director voice, the one that makes people feel incompetent for following protocol. He pulled a folded paper from his coat, likely an old copy of my lease. "Marco, look at the cosigner line." "Those are my parents," Jason said, gesturing to the elderly couple standing awkwardly by the elevators. "My sister isn't answering her phone, and we're worried. We aren't guests. We're family responding to a potential emergency. Do you really want to be responsible for us calling the NYPD for a wellness check?" It was a lie. Polished and lethal. In NYC. The threat of a wellness check is a doorman's nightmare. It means sirens, paperwork, and liability. Marco wavered, his thumb hovering over his radio. Jason shifted just enough to block the line of sight back to the elevators, creating a sense of private urgency. "Unit 3B, Jason added, dropping his voice. "We have her favorite takeout and her family." "Don't make this a scene." Marco stepped aside, defeated by the pressure. "Fine. But if she doesn't come to the door in 2 minutes, you all have to wait in the lobby. I'm sticking my neck out here." They surged forward, luggage rattling against the beige walls. My phone buzzed. Jason Lobby gave us the pass. "You're scaring Mom. Stop playing games and open up." I watched the hallway fill with people who didn't belong there. My apartment remained a silent vault. The social breach was complete, but the digital one remained impenetrable. I stopped typing. In my line of work, when a system fails to respond to logic, you don't keep shouting at the code, you observe the user behavior. On the security app, my thumb hovered over the settings. I tapped Share Live Viewing Access, generated a temporary guest link, and switched over to the FamFam group chat. "If you want to know why Jason is standing in a hallway instead of my living room," I messaged, "watch for yourselves." I pasted the link and immediately muted the thread. The shift on the screen was instantaneous. Jason's phone chimed in his hand. He looked down, his brow furrowing as he clicked the link. Then, his head snapped up. He didn't look at the door this time. He looked directly into the wide-angle lens of the camera. He realized, with a visible jolt, that he wasn't just arguing with a wooden slab he was performing for an audience. "Hannah, cut it out," he hissed, his voice dropping into that low, reasonable tone he used when he wanted to gaslight me into believing I was the problem. "This is private. You're making a scene." Behind him, Melissa's father cleared his throat, looking at the ceiling in exasperation. A child slumped onto a suitcase, kicking the wheels with a rhythmic, hollow thud. "I'm hungry. Why is the house mad at us?" "Just a minute, sweetie," Melissa murmured. Her face flushed as she realized the viewer count at the top of the feed was ticking up 4712. My aunts, cousins, and parents were now watching the hallway theater in high definition. Jason looked straight at the lens, his expression hardening. "You're embarrassing us," he said, measured. "Everyone can see this." I watched his reflection in the black glass of the lock. He was still sure that being seen would work in his favor, that the pressure of the family would force me to unlock the door. The hallway stayed loud. My apartment stayed still. I let the moment sit exactly where it was. The notifications stacked on my screen like a denial of service attack. "Mom, Hannah. Enough. This is getting awkward. Melissa. You're blowing this out of proportion. We're family." Jason didn't text. He stood in the hallway, centering himself in the camera's frame. "You're being sensitive, Hannah," he said, his voice slow and condescending. "This is a small thing. Don't be the reason the kids are sleeping on the floor." I pressed the microphone button. My voice was the clinical tone of a researcher presenting a failed test. 11 people isn't a small thing. "Jason, telling me you're coming isn't the same as asking for permission." He scoffed, glancing at Melissa's parents. "Our parents co-signed this lease when your credit was trashed after the divorce. That gives us a say. You wouldn't even have this roof without them. Co-signing is a financial guarantee for the landlord," I countered, the heat rising in my neck but staying out of my voice. "It covers liability. It does not grant administrative override or permission to treat my home like a shared asset." "Listen to you," Mom's text flashed. "You sound so cold." Jason leaned closer to the lens, his final card ready. "Fine. But remember this when you have a late meeting and need Mom to pick up Ethan. Don't expect us to be flexible when you're the one who needs help." He stood there, waiting for the familiar sound of my surrender. Instead, I toggled to my co-parenting app. A message from Tom sat there confirmed. "I've got Ethan next week. I also cleared it with Maya for backup. We're good." I switched back to the camera mic. "I've already secured childcare. Jason, Tom and I have it handled. My son's care isn't a bargaining chip you get to play anymore." The silence that followed was different. It was the silence of a man who had just realized his last piece of leverage had been deleted. Jason's mouth tightened into a thin, bitter line. "Unbelievable," he muttered. The lock stayed dark. The system was closed. I didn't tell them about the message I sent earlier, the one that didn't involve any of them, while Jason was standing in my hallway, reminding me who I supposedly depended on. I'd opened the co-parenting app Tom and I use. The thread was quiet. A thumbs-up emoji from yesterday. A pickup confirmation for Sunday night. I typed, "I might need backup childcare next week. Work's heavy." The reply came fast. "No problem. I can cover pickups. Or we can book Maya again." Maya, the college student who babysits when deadlines stack up. Reliable, paid, no favors attached. I locked my phone and exhaled. Not relief exactly. More like the ground settling. Back on the camera feed. Jason was pacing now. Melissa sat on a suitcase, scrolling, pretending not to watch the door. One of the kids leaned against the wall, tracing the baseboard with a finger. Jason looked up at the camera again. "So that's it. You're really doing this?" "I am," I answered, without raising my voice. He shook his head, half laughing. "You think you can just cut us off?" "I think I can decide who has access to my home." The words felt strange leaving my mouth, heavier than I expected, but they stayed put once they were out. We noticed how she didn't explain further, how she didn't justify the plan. She didn't need to. Jason checked his phone. No new messages came. The hallway noise softened. Bags shifted. Someone sighed. I stayed where I was, phone warm in my hand, letting the quiet hold. I was back in my car when the email came through. The subject line was plain. "Question regarding access to your unit." I pulled over before opening it. Michelle from Building Management wrote first. Polite, neutral. She explained that a group claiming to be my relatives had come to the desk asking for a spare key because they were locked out. She noted that staff hadn't provided access. Policy. She asked me to confirm who, if anyone, was authorized to enter my apartment. I stared at the screen for a moment longer than necessary. Then I typed, "No one but me." Another message arrived while I was still parked. "Jason." We talked to the front desk. "This is getting serious." I didn't reply. Instead, I attached the hallway footage to my response. The luggage, the crowd, Jason's face when the key failed. I kept my wording short, clear. They were not invited. They attempted entry without consent. Michelle responded quickly. "Thank you for clarifying." A few minutes later, she called. Her voice was calm, efficient. "We're going to log this as an attempted unauthorized entry," she said. "I'll also file a no-access notice. If they return, security will treat it as trespass." The word sat heavy between us. "I'm not trying to get anyone arrested," I told her. "I understand," she replied. This just sets boundaries. Back on the camera feed, Jason was on his phone, pacing again. Melissa stood with her arms crossed. Their voices were lower now. Controlled. My phone buzzed one last time. "Mom, you took this too far." I watched the hallway empty, one suitcase at a time. The door stayed closed. When it was quiet again, I sat there for a minute longer than I needed to. Then I started the car and drove home. Here is the revised Chapter 9. I've deepened the emotional resonance by connecting Ethan's relief to the newfound security of their home, ensuring the access denied theme reaches a soulful, final conclusion. The apartment smelled of lemon oil and filtered air. I had wiped the counters before leaving, a ritualistic attempt to hold order against the coming storm. It had worked. No stray suitcases blocked the hall. No unfamiliar voices echoed in the kitchen. Just a heavy, healing silence. Ethan returned the next evening, his backpack slipping off one shoulder. He stepped across the threshold and paused, his eyes scanning the corners of the living room with the practiced caution of a child used to finding his space invaded. "It's just us, Ethan," I said, kneeling to meet his gaze. "No one else is coming." His shoulders dropped 2 inches. He didn't cheer, he simply exhaled. "Okay." We spent the evening on the floor, building a Lego city that sprawled across the rug without fear of being stepped on. Later, as he brushed his teeth, my phone buzzed with a final bitter text from Jason. "Hope you're happy with your empty house." I didn't feel empty. I felt calibrated. Before bed, Ethan leaned against his doorframe, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. "Grandma doesn't have a code anymore." "Right, no," I said. And for the first time, the word didn't feel like a conflict. The only people with access to this home are the people who live in it. He nodded, satisfied, and climbed into bed. After the lights were out, I opened the app one last time. I purged the guest logs, deleted the old family backup code, and generated a fresh, encrypted key. The digital click was soft, but it sounded like a deadbolt sliding into a fortress. Hannah Brooks was no longer managing everyone else's overflow. The door was mine. The peace was ours. The system was finally secure.